Welcome to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Portland District, virtual scoping meeting for the environmental impact statement for the Cascade Renewable Transmission Project. Please note this meeting is being recorded and it will be posted to the Corps' website. Today's scoping meeting is an important part of the Corps' evaluation of this project, and we value the public's input. Thank you for your interest in the project and for taking the time to attend and participate in today's meeting. My name is Joe Brock, and I'm a National Environmental Policy Act Specialist in our regulatory program. I'm also the primary point of contact for the Environmental Impact Statement. This meeting will provide information on the proposed project, on some of the coordination history with the Corps, roles and responsibilities, and information on the National Environmental Policy Act, and on the scoping process. There will also be a presentation by the applicant. Following the presentations, we will accept and record oral comments at this meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to identify some of the terms you are likely to hear. This meeting is being conducted by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Portland District, or Corps. You may also see the Corps written as USACE or USACE. The applicant is Cascade Renewable Transmission, LLC, referred to as the applicant or Cascade for short. The project is called the Cascade Renewable Transmission Project, and we may abbreviate this as CRT project. NEPA means the National Environmental Policy Act, and EIS means an environmental impact statement. The Cascade Renewable Transmission Project is a proposal to construct and operate an electrical transmission line from the Dalles to Portland in Oregon. The proposal includes work in uplands, in and under the Columbia River, and under Oregon Slough, Columbia Slough, and the Willamette River. The proposed transmission line would interconnect with the existing Bonneville Power Administration Big Eddy substation located in the Dalles, and the existing Portland General Electric Harborton substation in Portland. The proposed alignment would be located in Wasco, Hood River, and Multnomah counties in Oregon, and Klickitat, Skamania, and Clark counties in Washington. The proposed transmission line is a 12-inch cable bundle consisting of two 6-inch diameter transmission lines and two 1-inch diameter fiber optic cables. The cable bundle would be installed under the bed of the Columbia River and other waterways. The transmission line would be buried underground in uplands and buried 10 to 15 feet below the bottom of the Columbia River. In areas where the transmission line would be buried less than 5 feet in the Columbia River due to site constraints, cable protection using riprap or articulated concrete would be installed. The proposed length of cable protection is 2.4 miles. The applicant will provide additional information on the proposed project and construction methods in their presentation. So why is the Army Corps of Engineers involved with a power line project? Cascade Renewable Transmission, LLC has requested a Department of the Army permission and permit from the Corps. The project would also require a real estate action by the Corps for portions of the project that would occur on Corps fee-owned lands. For today's meeting, we will focus on the requirements for a Department of the Army permit and permission. Under Section 14 of the Rivers and Harbors Act of 1899, permission is required from the Corps to make alterations to, or temporarily or permanently occupy, or use any Army Corps of Engineers federally authorized civil works project. We refer to this program as Section 408 based on the section number in the U.S. Code. An alteration is defined as any action that builds upon, alters, improves, moves, occupies, or otherwise affects the usefulness or the structural or ecological integrity of a Corps federally authorized project. The proposed transmission line would cross a Corps levee in the Dalles, and that levee is a federally authorized project. The transmission line is proposed to be constructed adjacent to, in, and under the Federal Navigation Channel in the Columbia River and Willamette River, and under other auxiliary navigation channels. The Federal Navigation Channel in the Columbia River between Vancouver, Washington, and the Dalles, Oregon, includes a deep draft navigation channel and pile dike structures. The Federal Navigation Channel is authorized to 27 feet deep, but is currently maintained to 17 feet deep, which is considered adequate for current users, which is primarily tug and barge traffic. The Corps will evaluate the project and determine whether to authorize the project under Section 408. The proposed project would also require a Department of the Army permit. Under Section 10 of the Rivers and Harbors Act of 1899, a permit is required for work in or affecting navigable waters of the United States. The proposed transmission line and construction activities in and under the Columbia River and Willamette River is work in or affecting navigable waters and thus requires a Department of the Army permit. Under Section 404 of the Clean Water Act, a permit is required for the discharge of dredged or fill material into waters of the United States. The proposed transmission line construction activities would result in the discharge of dredged material and the discharge of fill material for the cable protection. These activities require a Department of the Army permit. Note that Section 10 and Section 404 authorities are evaluated in a single permit decision. The Corps will evaluate the proposed project to determine whether it would be contrary to the public interest to authorize the project. The Corps has been coordinating with Cascade on this project. The following are just a few of the activities in this coordination history. In 2024, the Corps received the information for a complete permit application and issued a public notice in July of 2024. The Corps requires a permit applicant to submit information for the Corps' evaluation, and that evaluation must proceed in a timely manner. Due to the time needed for Cascade to prepare information, the permit application was administratively withdrawn in March 2025. In November 2025, the Corps received preliminary 30% design drawings for the project. Based on the available information and the reasonably foreseeable significant effects from this project, in January 2026, the Corps determined its review requires the preparation of an environmental impact statement, or EIS. The 30% design drawings and the Corps' EIS determination are available on our website. The Corps' EIS determination begins the NEPA process, which starts with scoping. For some additional background, the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, is a procedural statute that requires federal agencies, such as the Corps, to make informed decisions and to consider the impacts of a project on the environment. An EIS is a public document that evaluates the effects of a project. The EIS provides an evaluation of the significant environmental impacts and informs decision makers and the public on reasonable alternatives. The EIS itself does not contain a decision on the project. The Corps will use the EIS along with public input in its decision making. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Portland District is the lead federal agency responsible for the preparation of the EIS. The Corps is responsible for the content and scope of the EIS. The Corps is also responsible for establishing and managing a schedule to complete the EIS. Cooperating agencies on the preparation of an EIS may be any federal, state, or local agency or Native American tribe that has jurisdiction by law over the project or special expertise regarding the evaluation of the project. For the preparation of the EIS, the Corps has established the following as cooperating agencies: the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the U.S. Coast Guard, the Oregon Department of Energy in regards to the Energy Facility Siting Council, the State of Washington Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council, the Confederated Tribes of the Warm Springs Reservation of Oregon, the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde Community of Oregon, and the Confederated Tribes and Bands of the Yakama Nation. Cascade Renewable Transmission LLC will be using its consultant, HDR Engineering, to prepare the EIS. As commented earlier, the Corps, as the lead federal agency, oversees the preparation of the EIS and its contents. This is an overview of the EIS process. The process begins with a 30-day public scoping comment period. Based on input during scoping, the Corps will prepare and publish a draft EIS for public comment. The draft EIS comment period will be 45 days. The Corps will review comments and revise the draft EIS if needed, and then publish a final EIS. The Corps will then prepare a record of decision to document whether to authorize the project. The Corps has developed a 2-year schedule to complete the EIS process and to make a decision. The objective of the scoping process is to hear from you. We need your input to identify issues, alternatives, and potentially significant effects to consider in the EIS. You may also provide input on relevant information, studies, or analysis that should be considered or analyzed with respect to the proposed project. The Corps will evaluate numerous public interest review factors. The Corps will also evaluate the project for compliance with certain federal laws, such as the Endangered Species Act and the National Historic Preservation Act. Through the scoping process, your comments will be used to identify the potentially significant issues in which to focus the evaluation in the EIS. The scoping process is also used to identify insignificant issues that can be de-emphasized so that the EIS can analyze those issues of genuine concern. Scoping comments should be as specific as possible. Please focus your comments on those issues you believe should be addressed in the EIS. Commenting that you are in favor or opposed to the project alone is an incomplete comment. Instead, we want to hear the specific issues, both beneficial or adverse, that you think should be considered in the EIS. In regards to the application for a Department of the Army permit, the decision to issue a permit will be based on an evaluation of the probable impacts of the project on the public interest. That decision will reflect the national concern for both protection and utilization of important resources. The benefits, which reasonably may be expected to accrue from the proposed project, must be balanced against its reasonably foreseeable detriments. Public participation is an important aspect of the NEPA process. Please visit our website for information on the project and on the EIS process, and to access notices and the draft EIS when it becomes available. The Corps website address for the EIS is www.nwp.usace.army.mil/CRT. The preferred method for submitting comments is by email. Comments can be submitted by email to the following address: crt_EIS@usace.army.mil. You may also submit comments by mail to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Portland District. Attention Joe Brock for the CRT project. Post Office Box 2946, Portland, Oregon 97208-2946. The Corps will consider all comments received. To insert consideration, please submit comments by February 4th, 2026. You may also submit an email to be added to our distribution list related to the EIS. Anyone that submits comments will be added to the distribution list for future announcements. In summary, the Corps of Engineers, Portland District, has received a request from Cascade Renewable Transmission, LLC, for a Department of the Army permission and permit. The Corps will prepare an EIS to evaluate the proposed project. The first step for the EIS is the public scoping process to inform the issues to be evaluated in the EIS. The Corps will then prepare and publish a draft EIS for comment. Thank you for your participation in this process. As the applicant, Cascade Renewable Transmission, LLC, will now provide a short presentation. Please note the views or opinions provided by Cascade are not representative of the Corps. The Corps will complete an independent evaluation of the proposed project. Following the presentation from Cascade, We will accept oral scoping comments.
Thanks for the opportunity to present information about the Cascade Transmission Project. My name is Chris Hocker, representing the applicant, Cascade Renewable Transmission, LLC. In this brief presentation, I'll be providing information about the applicant, a general project description, the reasons for developing the project, and a description of how the construction and installation is accomplished. Who is Cascade Renewable Transmission, the applicant? We are a company formed by a team of private companies to support the development of the Cascade project, technically and financially. Independent transmission companies such as ourselves are different from utilities and government agencies that have traditionally built transmission. But in recent years, independent transmission companies have successfully done so in many parts of the U.S. Members of the applicant's development team include PowerBridge, the company I work for, which is responsible for 2 HVDC underwater and underground transmission facilities between New Jersey and New York, with a combined capacity of 1,320 megawatts. One of our partners, Sun2O, is a developer of renewable generation that several years ago concluded that despite the potential for large-scale wind and solar east of the Cascades, much more east-west transmission to reach western load centers would be needed before most of these resources could be successfully built. Another partner, NextEra Energy Transmission, is part of one of the largest utility and energy resource companies in the U.S., with assets that include the Transbay Cable project that includes a power cable under San Francisco Bay. The Cascade Transmission Project is a proposed new electric power transmission line that will carry 1,100 megawatts of electricity from generating sources east of the Cascade Mountains to energy load centers west of the Cascades. The line will be entirely underwater and buried underground. It will run for approximately 100 miles between the existing Big Eddy substation in the Dalles, Oregon, which is part of the BPA Star Complex, and the existing Portland General Electric Harborton substation in West Portland. About 80 miles of the line will be buried beneath the bottom of the Columbia River, shown as the green line, and the remaining portions will be buried underground, shown as the yellow lines. As shown on this slide, about an 8-mile underground segment will bypass the Bonneville Dam in Skamania County, Washington. It will be entirely buried underground along existing public rights-of-way, mostly along State Route 14. The line will transition between the river and the land using horizontal directional drill, or HDD technology. These are shown as the purple lines. HDD is widely used throughout the world for infrastructure such as cables and pipelines. The HDD transitions will be 40 to 50 feet deep below sensitive shoreline areas. Long segments of conduit will be installed inside the HDD paths to allow the transmission cable to be pulled through the conduit. The underground portions of the line will be buried using standard trenching technology in a trench of about 4 feet deep and 3 feet wide. Once installed, the trenches will be backfilled and there will be no visible signs of the cable once construction is finished. Similar underground installation will take place in 2 locations in Oregon, in the Dalles, shown in the figure on the right, and in the Rivergate industrial area of Portland, which is shown on the left-hand figure. The line will be buried along public rights-of-way. Transitions between the river and the land will be done with HDD. To reach the Harborton substation in Portland, the line will be installed approximately 40 feet below the bed of the Willamette River using HDD. The line will use high voltage direct current or HVDC technology. Most of the transmission system in the U.S., including the lines that serve residential, commercial, and industrial customers, use alternating current or AC technology. HVDC technology is needed for the line to run long distances underwater, but it also has the advantage of being entirely controllable, so that a DC line like Cascade can be operated to support the surrounding power grid. In order for the Cascade line to help serve the grid, it needs converter stations at each end of the line. A converter station in the Dalles will be built near the Big Eddy substation to convert AC power into DC power before entering the river. At the western end, another converter station will be built in the Rivergate industrial area to convert DC back into AC before interconnecting with the grid at the Harborton substation. The photo shown here is of a converter station in San Francisco, California for the Transbay cable, which was built in 2010. Transbay is similar to the Cascade project in that it includes an underwater HVDC cable running about 50 miles below San Francisco Bay and 2 converter stations at each end. The converter stations are similar to a typical electric substation and require about 5 acres of land each. What is the rationale for this project? Why are we proposing to build it? There are 2 main reasons. One is that both Oregon and Washington have passed legislation that requires a transition to clean energy sources by certain milestone dates. These resources, such as wind, solar, and geothermal, can only be developed on a large scale east of the Cascades, including states beyond Oregon and Washington, where there are low populations, more available land, and more favorable weather for wind and sunshine. The second reason is simply the growth in electricity demand in the Pacific Northwest, which translates into thousands of megawatts of new energy capacity needed to meet the demand. Today, the transmission system over the Cascades to the major load centers is already seriously constrained. Given the projected growth in energy demand, these constraints will only get worse in the absence of new east-west transmission. The need for new transmission to meet clean energy goals and meet growing demand on the west side of the Cascades has now been widely recognized in the press and among policymakers in both states. We see the Cascade project as part of the solution to the region's energy needs, one that helps meet growing demand and clean energy goals, using well-established technology for both construction and operation, while at the same time minimizing visual impacts and risks from wildfires and adverse weather events. How will the cable be installed underwater? A bundle of 2 cables, totaling 12 inches in diameter, is sufficient to transmit 1,100 megawatts of energy. The photo on the left shows the underwater cable bundle for the Neptune transmission project being fed off the back of a barge. The Neptune project, which was developed by PowerBridge, runs about 65 miles underwater and underground between New Jersey and New York. PowerBridge also developed an underwater and underground project, Hudson Transmission, that is buried in the Hudson River and supplies 660 megawatts of energy into New York City. As shown in the figure on the right, the cable bundle is lowered from a barge or ship into a machine called a hydroplow or jet plow on the bottom of the river. The surface vessel slowly pulls the hydroplow while high-pressure water jets in the plow blade create a 24-inch trench in the riverbed sediment. This fluidizes the sediment, allowing the cable bundle to be laid into the trench. Most of the fluidized sediment then settles back into the trench as the plow moves along. The installation vessel moves slowly at a pace of about a mile or mile and a half per day. The cable will be buried in accordance with the requirements of the Army Corps of Engineers, which we expect will average at least 10 feet below the sediment. We will conform the schedule of installation to work windows during the winter months, which are required to avoid fish migration and spawning seasons. We expect that it will take 2 winter campaigns to install the Cascade cable bundle, one above the Bonneville Dam and one below. This slide illustrates the fact that while this type of project is unusual in the Pacific Northwest, they have been built and operated successfully in other parts of the United States and throughout the world. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to provide this overview of the Cascade project, and we encourage you to learn more about it by visiting our project website and directing any questions you may have to us at any time. We'll be happy to respond.
This concludes the presentations on the EIS process and on the proposed project. The Corps included a presentation by Cascade as a project proponent. As a reminder, the Corps does not endorse the views or opinions presented by Cascade. The Corps will complete an independent evaluation of the proposed project. As discussed, we are seeking your comments as part of the scoping process for the EIS. To ensure consideration, please submit scoping comments by February 4th, 2026. The preferred way to submit comments is by email. You may submit comments by email to crt_EIS@usace.army.mil. You may also submit comments by mail to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Portland District. Attention Joe Brock for the CRT project. Post Office Box 2946, Portland, Oregon 97208-2946. We will also accept oral comments at the virtual scoping meetings. We will now begin the portion of the meeting to accept oral comments. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to comment. Please note, written comments and oral comments will be considered equally. To manage the logistics of the virtual meetings, we provided the opportunity to pre-register to speak. If you pre-register to speak and you are in attendance online, please click the raise hand icon in Teams. Anyone in attendance may also request to speak and provide comments. If you would like to speak, please click the raise hand icon in Teams. If you joined today's meeting by phone and you'd like to speak and provide comments, please dial *5 to virtually raise your hand. If during the meeting you decide you would no longer like to speak, you can click the raise hand icon again to lower your hand, or for those on the phone, you can dial *5 again to lower your hand. If you are called down and you do not wish to speak, you can simply say pass and we will move on to the next participant. Note, we will only accept one request per person to speak during this meeting. Please listen for your name to be announced, and you will be directed to unmute your microphone. After unmuting, you can quickly check to ensure that we can hear you. For our record, please begin by stating and spelling your first name and last name. For example, John Smith, JOHN SMITH. If you are commenting on behalf of an organization, please state the name of the organization. The timer will start when you begin to provide your comments. Please focus your scoping comments on those issues that you believe should be evaluated in the EIS. As a public meeting, the use of profanity, personal attacks, or inappropriate language will not be tolerated. Anyone not following these guidelines will be muted, and we'll move on to the next participant. Thank you for your participation, and we look forward to your comments. So we'll now take oral comments from anyone that would like to present their comments tonight. So I'm showing several hands up that would like to speak. So I'm going to begin with Mary Ripar. So your microphone has been enabled. So Mary, please go to the top of your screen and unmute. Just click the mic button and you can begin your comments. Please state and spell your name for our record, and then you can begin your comments. So Mary, go ahead and unmute. Just click the mic button and you can go ahead and start. Well, we're not hearing from Mary, but we can circle around and come back to you and try to get you connected. So I'm going to move on to Rosie Strange. You'll be next. So you can go to the top of your screen, click the mic button to unmute yourself. Please state and spell your name, and then you can provide your comment. So we're looking for Rosie right now. So Rosie Strange, if you could go to the top, go ahead and click the mic button.
The mic button is on the bottom, not on the top.
On our screens here.
Mary.
Okay, well, let's go ahead with Mary. Go ahead. We'll go ahead and start with you first.
Yes, most of us don't use Teams, not Zoom. Mary Ripar, M-A-R-Y-R-E-P-A-R from Stevenson, Washington. I will be offering expanded comments in an email, but tonight I just want to cover the topics that I will be expanding on. First, I would urge the Corps to take the no action alternative to this project. If this project was so good, it should go on I-84, where it's already disturbed earth, and I-84 DOT wouldn't take it, so why should the Columbia River? Our Columbia River is asked to do a lot of things for humanity and for our wildlife and everybody. This is one project too far. The things that I'm troubled by is this would impact the Endangered Species Act, and again, I will expand on these in written comments. It would also, there would be heat and electromagnetic fields by this transmission line. And I don't think we have enough information about heat and what it would do to the sedimentation and the microbial life in the sediments. The Steigerwald Lake National Wildlife Refuge is in the path of this proposal. Also, the Columbia River Treaty, I believe, applies to this project. I made comments on the treaty. It affects the entire Columbia River, and this 100 miles is in the Columbia River, and I'm fairly sure the Canadians won't like it. Also, the land use consistency certificates have not been apparently given from everything I've been able to find out from Stevenson, the cities of Stevenson, North Bonneville, and Skamania County. And this project definitely is not allowed under Skamania County's shoreline management plan. Lots of problems here. Although NEPA has been increasingly put upon by this Republican administration, I believe the rules of NEPA as they were before they were diminished should apply. The out grants, I don't think ACE should give permission, frankly. This has too much impact on too many people and animals and wildlife and substrata. We're not going to be plowing up the Columbia River. I'm sorry. She's already being put upon by a lot of other things. Temperatures in the river are rising, and they are, we don't need more temperature. And the Bradford Island cleanup is in the way too. So I think there are too many problems with this project, and it needs to go away. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Tonight's virtual meeting is in Teams, and it may be a little different from what you're used to seeing. So within your browser, you'll just look for the mic button to unmute yourself when it comes time to speak. So I want to try Rosie Strange again. So your mic is enabled. If you could go to the mic button, go ahead and unmute yourself, state and spell your name, and then provide your comments. So Rosie, go ahead. All right, I'm not hearing from Rosie. We can come back though. I'm going to go on to the next hand that's up. And I just have the name of Gray. So your microphone is enabled. So for the name Gray, you can go up, unmute yourself. Please state and spell your first. Please state and spell your first and last name and go ahead.
Hello, my name is Casper Gray, CASPERGREY. I have lived in the Columbia River Gorge now for about 14 years. And having worked in social work in this area, while also gaining many friends who are also part of the Yakama Nation, the Umatilla Nation, and many other Native American tribes who were here before us. I have a very hard time understanding why it's being allowed that people that who were never here to begin with are essentially, I'm sorry, I'm a little emotional. I don't understand why we are ignoring the wants and needs of the Native American ancestral people who have protected these lands for so many years. And what the Army engineers are proposing just very much seems to be the ones who are making our area not as protected as it should be. And I don't know how to fully explain that in 45 seconds now, but I just want it to be known that those who have been here this whole time should legit have the right to protect these lands as it should be. Thank you for your time.
So the next hand raised is Perrin Zahn. So you'll be our next speaker. So your mic is enabled. If you could go up and unmute yourself and state and spell your name and provide your comments.
Yeah, my first name is Perrin, Perrin. Last name Zahn, Zahn. You can hear me, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you. Thanks. Go ahead.
Okay. Great, thank you. Okay, so what we're talking about here is open trenching nearly 79 miles of the Columbia River bed and apparently inventoried wetlands. The draft impact statement itself says it will impact 4 upland endangered wildlife species and no less than 16 endangered aquatic species. The draft environmental impact statement also says this project will impact essential fish habitat, which is not just an acronym. It means habitat necessary for all stages of fish reproduction, including spawning, breeding, feeding, and growth to maturity. And we're not talking about laying a cable on the riverbed floor either. This will be a open trench using a hydroplow, which is essentially a very large pressure washer, to trench up to 15 feet deep in the bed of the Columbia River, resulting in, from the environmental impact statement, up to 305,000 cubic yards of sediment. Now, the word on that is that it will excavate and redeposit, but the nature of this hydroplow method does not simply vacuum up the sediment that is deposited in the flowing river. So we're talking about years of sediment increasing the turbidity of the entire downstream Columbia, up to 305,000 cubic yards of sediment, not including additional sediment that might be excavated at higher elevation points that may require pre-dredging to the hydroplow use. Land-water transitions at either end of this buried cable would also necessitate the installation of 4 temporary 70 by 300 foot cofferdams, which means to dewater within them, and the excavation and redeposition of an additional 26,000 cubic yards of riverbed substrate within the cofferdams. This project flies directly in the face of every effort to preserve and restore a rapidly diminishing natural environment. At a time when we were discussing Lower Snake River dam removal and continue to somehow blame sea lion populations for the impacts of major Columbia River dams and apparently this project, we still pretend as though a negatively impactful project of this magnitude, a project likely to turn Columbia River brown with loose sediment for years, is somehow worth anyone's time or consideration, whether a professional engineer or a civilian working in healthcare. I would urge the Army Corps to stop this project in its entirety. If you want energy availability west of the Cascades, build energy production west of the Cascades. The Columbia Generating Station alone generates over 1,200 megawatts, while this project claims to establish up to 1,100 megawatts of capacity. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And I apologize in advance for any mispronounced names. I'm next showing Lane Minas. Your microphone's been enabled. You can unmute yourself. Please state and spell your name, and you can provide your comment. So Lane, you're up next. Go ahead and unmute yourself. So we're going to move on to one of the phone callers. I'm showing the phone number ending 1765. So if you've dialed in by phone, I've got a hand raised for 1765. So your microphone is enabled. It looks like your hand was down, but if you're on that number, you can press *6 to unmute yourself, and you can go ahead and provide comments. So it looks like our phone caller may have lowered his hand. That's okay. We're going to move on to the next one I have on the participant list, which is Candace Jimenez. So your microphone is enabled. If you could click the microphone button to unmute yourself, state and spell your name, and you can provide your comment. So Candace, you're up next. If you'd like to provide comments, go ahead and unmute. We're ready for you. So I'm not hearing from Candace. We're going to go ahead and move on to another phone caller that has a hand raised. And so we can try you guys again later. So the phone number that has a hand raised is ending with 1179. So for the phone number ending 1179, so your microphone's enabled. If you'd like to speak, you can go ahead and unmute and state your name and provide comments.
Hi, my name is Rosie Strange. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Awesome. RosieStrange. I am a registered tribal member of the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, as well as a born and raised person, indigenous person of this Columbia River, or the Nichiwana, the traditional ancestral name. I was born here on this river and raised most of my life. And so I've seen this river go through a lot of things, and I felt very compelled to come here today and speak and ask a lot of my community to join me here. So I'm very happy to see people in this room making their words known. This river is a sacred place and has already been changed many times, as other speakers have started to say. And us that live here feel that it's too much. We see our fish being sick. We see our fish not coming back. And they've been impacted by the changes that have already been established by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the choices that they continue to make. That affects our people here. It affects the land. And this is sacred land of the Warm Springs Yakima people. And from what I've seen, I don't think you all have cooperation from those tribal nations. There's been criticism of this project, that we agree when we don't, that you have inaccurate claims, that it matches our energy goals as tribal people. I also see that you are impacting traditional fishing sites and cultural sites. Currently, we have a warning on the Columbia River for natural fish that live here for high, toxic metals. And I wonder how much more that will impact families that eat off of this river. It's our traditional food gathering site. And what will these building processes that you've explained to us today further disrupt and continue to pollute this sacred water? I urge you to please stop this. Listen to the people that are here to speak today. We're concerned for the generations that are coming, not just of people, but the animals that live here, the water, the land. It's our responsibility to protect it. And as other people have said, she's already been so impacted. There's a lot of concern about the heat, the water temperatures, and we know that Google already being on the river is already impacting that. And I just ask you to please not move forward with this. Consider how this will affect future generations of people, fish, animals, and the other things that people enjoy here, recreation. How are we going to be able to play on that river, drink near the water here with it so polluted? Please do not move forward with this. Please deny this permit. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We have another phone caller that I'd like to go to. So the phone with the last number is 1824. So we'll have you next. You can unmute yourself, just state and spell your name and provide your comment. Yeah. For our phone caller, so the unmute is *6 on your phone.
Hello, my name is Lane Mianis.
We're getting
Hello?
Yeah, we're getting feedback, so they have to turn down your volume and just use your phone.
All right. All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Lane Mianis. I am a chief of the Columbia River. I come from Slilo, YM. I've lived on the Columbia River most of my life. This project here affects, not only the river, but people's way of life. And as it was said, people watch this river go through many, many changes. They've already taken away some of the most important, precious things from us on this river, like Slilo Falls, the Narrows below there. So there's a lot of stuff that's already happened to this river. We've already seen happen that have dramatically hurt our people that live here on this river from this area. So to watch it go through this again, when you guys ready to put a power line down the river to heat up, that's going to heat up the river, as a lot of people have said. Well, we're already dealing with that kind of problem here in the Dalles with Google. So it's going to be a hard fight to fight you guys and Google to not harm our river any more than it already is. It's hard to sit back and watch the government do what they want as they please to the waters, to the lands, even the people for that matter. So somebody has to stand up and say that's enough. And you know, as being raised the way I was raised, I'm gonna have to stand up and say that's enough. You know, to watch this river be hurt more than it already is gonna hurt the people worse than it already has. So, you know, it's about the wildlife as well. You know, we got foods that live in that water that need the cold water, and you guys are going to heat up the water. We got foods that are in danger right now because of the water. So, and then all that, you know, people have talked about that sediment that'll be disturbed, you know, and not all of that sediment's going to just settle right back in where you brought it up from. It's going to find somewhere else to settle. Where's that going to settle? Right behind the dams, like all the other settlements? And how is that going to affect it when we remove those dams? Because we plan on removing those dams, and when that sediment is washed away, there's just going to be a cable laying there? How are you going to deal with that? You know, so that's just some things that are coming that we need to consider and look at going forward, looking at our lands and our waters and the history for a better future. We already have a lot of things that make electricity. Why do you need more? You know, the land can't be fixed. It can't go back. There's no restart button. That's it.
Thank you for your comment. I have another participant hand up. It's raised as Jack Community Member as the participant name. So Jack, we will go to you next. If you could go to the mic button and unmute yourself, go ahead and state and spell your name for our record, and then provide your comments. So we're looking for a participant that's listed as just Jack Community Member. So if you'd like to provide comments, go ahead and unmute. We're ready for you, and you can provide your comments. Well, thanks for bearing with us on the virtual format here. I'm going to move on to a phone caller that has their hand up. So for the phone number ending 4179, you'll be next. So we've allowed your microphone. Go ahead and press *6 to unmute, and you can provide your comments.
Hello.
Yep, we can hear you. You can
Okay,
provide
great.
your,
Thank you.
yeah, if you could provide your first and last name, and then you can provide your comments.
Yes, Candice Jimenez, CandiceJimenez. So we took the Wigwa Kanawishan, Nika Showish Kliu Timix, Nika Beshantage Kliu Candice Jimenez. So I'm a tribal citizen of the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, and my ancestors are of the Columbia River Plateau, and our relationship to the Columbia River long predates the creation of the U.S., the state of Oregon, as well as this permitting process. So I'm here today not as a stakeholder, but as a treaty rights holder who's exercising their responsibilities that were never ceded, and those rights remain in force for present and future generations. So for the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, the Columbia River lies within our ceded lands, where we retain the right to fish at all of the usual and accustomed places. As you all are aware, salmon, lamprey, and sturgeon are not just merely resources to us. They are part of our first foods, foundations of our health, culture, and our way of life. And so the federal government has a trust responsibility to ensure that the actions that are taking place in the river do not impair those treaty reserved rights. I also serve as the board chair of the Portland Harbor Community Coalition, where we work alongside tribal nations along the region, community partners to address legacy contamination, as well as advance the long-term restoration of the Portland Harbor Superfund site. In that, I know that our work has taught us a lot with regard to river sediment and how that's disturbed and impacts are long-lasting. I want to acknowledge too that the Corps of Engineers initiating the scoping process for the project and for recognizing that this proposal significantly affects human and natural environment, and so this is critical. But I also must state clearly that placing a large-scale high-voltage transmission cable directly within the river raises serious environmental, cultural, and intergenerational concerns that can't be minimized or treated as routine infrastructure review. I also want to clearly state that the statement itself must analyze the cumulative and indirect impacts of data centers that this project is intended to serve, and I think a few folks have mentioned that. So I just want to say that the statement must also analyze the transmission cable and the industrial demand that it enables. So failing to account for that dismisses our treaty rights as well as an incomplete analysis under NEPA. So let's see. And I also just want to just note here too around meaningful tribal consultation that must be more than procedural. Warm Springs and other Columbia River tribes bring generations of place-based knowledge, indigenous science, and lived experience that will help shape this analysis. So please take that seriously as this continues, and that our ancestors and your ancestors will also pay that impact into the future. So thank you so much for this time this evening.
So thank you for your comment. We're going to move on to Teresa Hardy. So Teresa, if you could go up and go to the mic button and unmute and state and spell your name and provide your comments, please.
My name's Teresa Hardy, and I'm here from the Lewitt local group of the Sierra Club. And in listening to the previous speakers, I won't repeat a lot of what they said, but we are in agreement with what has been said. There's the impact on wildlife. There's the impact on the river itself. Both the city of Vancouver and Clark County are in the process of a comp plan. And part of the comp plan is establishing climate change element and what are we going to do about it, and everything that we do that impacts our environment with the climate change that we're experiencing causes catastrophic effects. So there's much at stake here, and we do not want to see this project go forward. Thank you. Oh, one other thing, if I have time. When this was the public engagement part of this, for the scoping part of this, for the public to understand this, the first meeting was in Washougal for Clark County, and the public comment for that first meeting ended at 12 a.m. the night of the meeting. And I think the same thing happened when they went to the other two counties. And then the only way we heard about this was because it was posted on the radar of Friends of Clark County, and then it was in a Columbian article. And in the Columbian article, it said the dates of these two meetings, but it said that you had to pre-register by Friday, January 23rd, and it just gave an email address. So if you want public engagement and you want scoping comments, then there needs to be more transparency for a wider audience to know actually what's going on, how to access it, and how to provide comment. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We're going to move on to another phone caller that I have in the participant list. So for the phone ending 1765, so your microphone has been enabled. If you could press *6 to unmute and state your name, and you can provide your comments.
Okay, Bernadette Grace, Yakima Nation, is what I'm enrolled under. I am against this. When we got moved to the Dells because Celilo got covered up, and my family fished there. So now we fish in the Dells and up and down all the river. And the water with Google already is way too warm. And if you guys do that, you're going to bring a lot of sediment up that's contaminated. And the fish will be getting more contaminated. And are you guys, when you guys do this, are you going to compensate all of us for losing our livelihood for our foods? These are our traditional foods that we would be losing for this. And now you're saying it's going to take 2 winters to put these lines in? We're not going to be able to fish the rivers. The barges are already bad enough as it is because the water changes and they do hit bottom in some spots along the Columbia River. What's going to happen if they hit this line where even though it's under 6 feet, it doesn't mean that with the way how rough the water is going and everything, it could come undone. And you guys are basing this back east that they started this. It is not the same as the Columbia River. So I don't know how you guys studied this. So I am really against this. And I just wanted to put my 2 cents in on this. And I'm sorry I didn't answer earlier. I was driving. When I pulled over, thought I was going to be able to talk. I didn't. So I got back on the road and then I couldn't get it on my speakerphone. So I pulled over again to be able to speak. And I know with the Willamette going on, and that's going to be causing problems if you guys are going both ways from starting from the Dells and heading to Clackamas. Next year, they're supposed to be doing the super fund for the Willamette. They're going to be dredging there. So, and that's supposed to take 4 months, and a lot of contamination and sediment will be coming up. And I don't know if you guys are in together and finding all this about when and will this be happening. And I just want you guys to know I'm against it because that is, I mean, I eat fish every day. I can it, I freeze it, and I do have fish every day. And if I'm not going to be able to eat it every day, that's part of my traditional food. I mean, I have it for a snack, or sometimes that's my only meal because that's what I was raised up on. So, and I know this year I was going to put a lot more away just because next year I don't even know if we will have fish. So I don't know how you guys are going to be able to compensate for all of our traditional foods that we eat every single day.
We're at about time here. If you have a final thought, we'll wrap it up and move on to the next speaker.
Okay, so that's what I just had for, you guys, if this goes through, you guys are going to be taking a lot of food from the river from everybody, not just us, everybody.
All right, thank you for your comment.
And so I just want you to know that I'm against it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We're going to move on to Elaine Harvey. So Elaine, your mic is enabled. If you could click the mic button to unmute and just state and spell your name, and you can provide your comment. So Elaine, you're up next. If you can unmute, we'll take your comments now. Well, we didn't hear. We can circle back. You can try again later. So I'm going to move on to Taryn Yazdan. So Taryn, your mic's enabled if you want to go up to the mic button and unmute. If you can state and spell your name for us, and you can provide your comment.
Great. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you. Yep, go ahead.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. For the record, my name is Taryn Yazdani, TerynYazdani, and I am a staff attorney for Columbia Riverkeeper. Columbia Riverkeeper will be submitting more thorough and extensive comments on specifics to include within the scope of the EIS. But tonight, I just really quickly wanted to raise that the scope of this EIS should consider that this is a precedent-setting project for the Columbia River. This is the first project of this kind in the region, and if approved, would set precedent for making the Columbia River a utility corridor. And its potential impacts are far-reaching and go beyond the immediate in-water work. The Corps also needs to recognize that the cumulative impacts of this project also include any maintenance or repair that could happen in the cable's 40 to 50-year lifespan. So in the cumulative impacts, the Corps also needs to consider how maintenance and repair instances will impact species, water quality, as well as use when redisturbing the sediment or doing water work. Additionally, it's really vital that the Corps requires site-specific studies to be able to actually look at the impacts to the Columbia River and Columbia River species. A lot of the examples and studies referred to by the applicant aren't really comparable to the situation and conditions of the Columbia River. It's a very unique environment with unique stressors and species. And in our comment, we'll expand a bit more specifically on the site-specific studies point, but I did want to raise that initially this evening. And in closing, before subjecting this unique and irreplaceable reach of the river to these threats, the Corps really needs to analyze all potential impacts, including but not limited to impacts to water quality, impacts to aquatic species and benthic species, as well as impacts to tribal nations. Again, Columbia Riverkeeper is going to expand on very specific impacts in our written comment, but when looking at the significance of the impacts here, the Corps needs to consider the precedent-setting nature of this project in the Pacific Northwest. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I'm going to try one of our participants again. So I have a participant with a hand up listed as just Jack, community member. You have your hand up. We'd like to hear from you. So your microphone's enabled. If you could go ahead and go to the mic button and unmute yourself, and we'll take your comments. Oh, I'm not hearing anything. That might be a hand up by mistake. We can always circle back. So I want to move on to a phone caller. So for the phone number ending 4779, your microphone's enabled. If you can press *6, we'll unmute yourself, and then you can provide comments.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Wonderful. My name is Jacqueline Lamar. That is spelled JACLYNLA, capital MAR. I am Jack, community member in the chat, and both times I was present attempting to speak, the mic never allowed me to unmute. I wanted to make that known because I know there are others who were in teams who were not able to speak because of that. I I just wanted to say that we really need to be lifting and centering Indigenous voices in this conversation. The Columbia River is the lifeblood of the community and has been for time immemorial. This river has gone through so much in the name of progress already, and we are trying to harm it further with this action. We were told that the dams would be the energy source that would sustain us, that would be more than enough energy on this side of the country. We have the Colville Dam or the Grand Coulee Dam up north on the Columbia that is supposed to generate enough power to power the entire coast, and they aren't even using that at full capacity. And yet here we are hearing again and again that the energy is not enough. We have flooded so many sacred sites to so many Indigenous people along this stretch of the river already. We've lost the Celilo Falls, lost the Kettle Falls. We've lost too much, and this is too much to ask for these people to continue giving in the name of progress. The plows along the river are going to disturb the sturgeon that are vital to the community, the sacred food source for the community that has lived here for longer than we can possibly even imagine. I do not think it is proper or appropriate to move forward with a project that will do so much harm to people who are already struggling. We don't know how the rising sediment will affect the salmon runs. We can only guess. We don't know how much those plows are going to harm the sturgeon sleeping down there. A risk that is not acceptable to take with these precious resources. I really think that you need to reevaluate this and have long, hard conversations with the tribes that you will be impacting with this project. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We're going to move on to another phone caller. So for the phone ending 4304. So 4304, your mic's enabled. If you can press *6 to unmute and state and spell your name, and we'll take your comments.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Martin Marquez, Martin Marquez. I am a tribal member with the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, and I just wanted to come on here to show my disapproval for this project. We've already asked too much of the Columbia River, and continuously to ask for this and disregard the impacts of the fish and how it's going to affect the natives along this river. We're always told just to withstand whatever is going to happen in the name of progress, and I just felt it's in the need to fight for what's right and fight for what my people have wanted always. Sorry, I get really emotional talking about this kind of stuff because it's been an ongoing problem forever, let alone the impact on the river, the fish, the people that use it daily. My family's been fishing on this river forever. So I just needed to get on here and show my disapproval, and I really hope that the U.S. Army Corps really takes in all these natives coming on here, and a lot of us don't like to speak up. A lot of us have been told we shouldn't, and so it's hard to get on here and say what you need to say, but it's needed, and people need to realize that this is going to cause a lot of harm. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We're going to try another phone caller. So for the phone ending 8119, so your microphone's enabled. If you can press *6 to unmute and then state and spell your name, and we'll take your comment.
My name is Frankie George. I'm an enrolled member of the Yakama Nation. I come from the Kumusbum Band from Rock Creek, River People. I just wanted to get on here and make a statement for myself, for my family, my children, our future generations. I have a lot of questions. What I want to know is who sent you here to our area? It's my understanding this company comes from the East Coast. And who requested your company or why? What is the real purpose of this line and who specifically will benefit from this? Is this for AI or for data centers? And why are you looking at our river when this line can be put in along the highway? You bury it there. It doesn't need to go in our river. Are you trying to avoid paying landowners to install this line? Is that your reasoning? I'll tell you now, there's no amount of money you could ever pay us to replace our fish. It's irreplaceable. We will not sacrifice what the Creator placed here for us to nourish our bodies. This is not green energy. It is not going to benefit us. So why should we sacrifice our way of life? You ask too much, especially when there are no kind of guidelines or regulations put in place for such projects. I am against this line going in our river for so many reasons. It endangers our fish, a main staple of our life. It will cause the river temperature to rise, and it's already reaching dangerous levels. If this line malfunctions, it will be a devastation for everyone all the way down the river. We are not willing to sacrifice our river or our fish for electricity. The dams have already caused enough damage, and we will not endanger our fish again, especially not for some man's greed, and definitely not for data centers or AI. It's just not feasible for us to sacrifice our water and our fish for technology. There's not enough water in this world to continue building data centers after data centers. There has to be a limit before it's too late. The technology you're pursuing is very dangerous, not to just us, but to everybody. Yeah. And there's just got to be limitations to this. I'm very worried and very afraid for future generations. This is just asking too much of us.
Thank you for your comment. We're going to go to Elaine Harvey now. So Elaine, if you could go up to the mic button and unmute yourself and state and spell your name for us and provide your comment. So Elaine, if you're ready, you can unmute and go ahead and provide your comment. Well, I'm not hearing anything. I'm going to move on to Karina Thompson. So Karina, if you could go up to the mic button and unmute yourself and go ahead and state and spell your name, and you can provide your comments.
Okay. Hello, my name is Karina Thompson. That is Kerryna. I am the member of a Yakama Nation tribe, and I am part of the Big River Youth Council. I was asked to speak here today. I'm 15 years old, and this river, this Columbia River, my ancestors have and my grandparents have lived and fished here along the Columbia River for hundreds to thousands of years. My family has relied on this river and its fish for generations, and I am here today to speak for this river on my behalf and the others' future. Because in the future, kids over and over generations will be need to rely on this river. And what you're gonna do today with this technology, this is unproven technology. There's like no large scale and the high voltage freshwater transmission cable like this exists in the USA. And from any more projects like this, I would continue to speak here for this on the behalf of the Columbia River and for my future and others. And this project adds one more stressor to the fish that are already struggling to survive. The dams, those fish canals that were built, some of the fish don't even use it still, and so many fish to thousands still get killed in those dams to this day. And I'm sure if you do research on the river temperatures, you'll see every 5 years the water temperature goes higher each year, and that's dangerous. I live next to the Klickitat River. I live on grounds of a hatchery, and they have an installment here to check the temperature each day, and you'll see differences every 5 years at least. And the cable operation temperatures can reach to 158 Fahrenheit, and the river already experiences regular high temperature events. And like adding a heat source to that river bed really increases risk to the fish, and you have other invasive species in the river already. And we really rely on our salmon. From a kid, I can remember we didn't get much fish when we fished down there at the river. I still remember some of those days. We didn't catch as fish as I hoped we would have catched. And over 300,000 cubic yards of the sediment would be disturbed. The route crosses Superfund sites with containment sediment, already disputing pollutants and damaged fish habitats and water quality already. Any future repairs would disturb the river again. And that would not really be good at all for our river, because we rely on this river. Our communities, us natives that live across this river, on the bends of it, we rely on this river so much. And you doing this with your project, that would damage it more for us, for me, and future generations. Thank you.
So thank you for your comment. I have a participant that entered just as the name Gray. So if that participant is on and would like to speak, so listed as Gray, your microphone's enabled. You can go ahead and give us.
Hi, yes.
Yeah.
Hi, yes.
Yep, go ahead.
My name is Micah. My name is Micah Gray, Michahgrey. I am a resident of the Dalles for about 14 years, and I want to emphasize the voices of our Native people here in the Gorge. What they are saying is more impactful than whatever kind of lying you're trying to put forth. You are endangering lives. And I want you to take consideration of that. And I want you to take into consideration the people who have been here for thousands of years. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I have a phone number. I'm sorry, we little technical difficulty here. We'll circle back. So I'm going to go to Thomas Gordon. So if you go to the microphone button, you can unmute and state and spell your name, and we'll take your comment.
Thomas Gordon, THOMASGORDON. Project should not get a permit. The cost of $1.5 billion is close to the projected cost of geothermal power plants. Sites on the north side of Mount Hood have been identified, and a geothermal plant called the Mazama Project is being developed down near the Newberry Crater in Central Oregon now. The cost of the total project will be increased because SMRs have not been fully developed so far. Those are small modular reactors and will take several more years. Lastly, nuclear waste would be created, and that would last for thousands of years and have to be dealt with in addition to the price of the SMRs. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We're going to go to Erica Thompson. So Erica, if you could go to the mic button and unmute and state and spell your name for us, and you can provide your comment.
Hello, my name is Erica Thompson, ERICATHOMPSON. I just want to go and say that I'm against what is being proposed to do with this. I'm a member of the Yakama Nation, and I'm 43 years old. I've spent a lot of time on the river with my family since I was a baby. My family has gillnet fished on the river around the Dalles area, around the Hood River, Oregon area. And it's my grandmother and grandfather were a team, and they're along with their kids. And they used to have 2 drying shacks going when I was younger, and put away so much salmon for their families, not to sell, but they would fill their own bellies first, fill their own freezers first, always making sure that, the land provided for them, not with just salmon, but with, going hunting in the mountains, root digging, berry picking. My family has always been involved in that kind of lifestyle. And we get called upon a lot for when we have something going on in our family, funerals or memorials, name givings. They know who our family is, and they ask for our help a lot. And salmon is always the first thing that goes on the table because we respect it so much. And I work for Yakama Nation Fisheries. I've been with them since 2017. And I thought I knew about salmon until I came and started working here. But I have to do a lot of data. I have to watch a lot of the temperatures. I've done river surveys, habitat surveys, all kinds of things. I live on the tributary of which is the Klickitat River that goes into the Columbia River. And I worked up in the twist on the Methow River. I worked up at Sockeye program up there above the Yakima River. And all of this stuff, these dams and stuff that go into the water, all affect our water temperatures where it gets higher. And that is dangerous. And something like this is just adding more danger into the water, which adds more danger to our salmon, which we need for future generations. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comment. We're going to go to Bronsko Jim Jr. So if you could go to the mic button and unmute yourself and go ahead and state and spell your name for us and provide your comment.
Mic check.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Sweet. Bronsco Jim Jr., BRONSCO JIM, and Junior. I'm a Wanatlatanan. I'm a river Indian. My bloodline comes from both sides of the river, that being of Kamitpa, Pawanput, Duxbush, Rock Creek, John Dame, Pine Creek, and further on. My Indian name's Yumti Cham, Nasaw Sinwis Wanaki, Chiti Cham Chilkui Kukayan, Ishishuka Shams and Mipyap. I'm swearing under my creator to speak about this river in our land on this day. And we are the first people of this land from the day of creation. We do have a say on our river. First of all, I'm opposed to this project for the following reasons, which are only a few. I'm only limited to 3 minutes. An urgent concern is for the water life, those that are migratory, those that are residential. We are a part of an ecosystem as Native people. We currently are suffering from extreme temperatures and drought, along with poor winters that do not leave much of snowpack to suffice nature, in that modernization is building on top of that scarce water. The overall health of the big river and tributaries is already ailing. It's evident in the temperatures, leading to other symptoms such as high algae blooms, favorable conditions for invasive water species that are competing against native species, examples carps, bullfrogs, others that thrive in hot water. They eat the native juvenile salmon and steelhead lamprey. There is a known struggle already for out-migrating salmon juveniles. Numerous tributaries today have sediment buildup that have not been addressed by the Army Corps of Engineers. These deltas are the result of dams not allowing tributaries in the big river to flush them clear. They leave out migrating juvenile salmon, steelhead, lamprey vulnerable to predation. And historically in 2015, there's a die-off of sockeye salmon because the temperatures reached the high record of 74 degrees. In 2024, the same species were observed halting migration. Upon return, they seek refuge in tributaries. They need cold water to live and migrate. This past fall, in the last few years, for fall Chinook, we're slow catching for set netters. Fishermen said they were running deep and in the middle of the river, perhaps seeking the coolest waters in the river. In this year at the John Day Dam, 78 degrees was the record. Residential fish are observing lack of reproduction because of hot waters. So these are just a brief list of concerns that I could think of and have researched. And thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I'm going to try a phone caller. So for the phone ending 2360, we'll have you press *6 to unmute, and then you can provide your comment. So 2360.
Hello. My daughter is going to say a statement. Her name is Alana Harvey. It is spelled ALANNA, last name Harvey, HARVEY.
Nishkawa Inishwanisha Lasaya Kusha Potimki Alana Harvey. My name is Alana Harvey and my Indian name is Lasaya. My family fishes in Columbia River and I am worried about the salmon and Pacific lamprey. I do not want a high-power electric cable in the river. I live in Goldendale and I'm 11 years old and I am from the Rock Creek Band on Columbia River. When I grow up, I want fish on the Columbia River. We do ceremonies in Rock Creek like Longhouse, like some name-giving, Sunday services, and feastas. Thank you, Alana Harvey Lasayet.
She's
Thank you for your comment. At the time, we're not showing, oh, we have another hand up. So I'm going to go to listed as Deborah in my participant list. So Deborah, if you go to the mic button and unmute and state and spell your name for us, then you can provide your comment. So Deborah, we're ready for you. You have your hand up. You're our next speaker. If you could unmute with the mic button and go ahead and provide your comment. So I didn't hear from Deborah. I want to go back for our last speaker, Alana. You may have had a glitch here and gotten cut off. So if you would like to speak, you can go ahead and raise your hand. We may have inadvertently gotten cut off there somehow. At the moment, I'm not showing any additional hands raised. So if anyone would like to speak, you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. We still have additional time left in tonight's meeting. So I have a hand up for the phone ending 1528. So for that phone, 1528, if you press *6, you can unmute and provide your comments.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you. Go ahead and if you state and spell your name for us, and then go ahead.
These Clowet, Winnashash, Willalukes, Kushiapatumki, Lorna. Good evening. My name is Lorna, Lorna. Last name is Jim, Jim. And I'm from the Big River area. I just agree with all what everybody said. I don't want to repeat, but disturbing our river, that would be like me coming into your home and, moving your house. Kicking dust in your face. I don't know how to get it through anybody's head, but it's really, you got to think about what's in that river, everything. Down deep. It's not just going to be the river. You're going to affect all sides of the river, the cliffs, everything. Even the railroad, your highway. We already know that things from that railroad, the highway, the orchards, that goes into the river already. We deal with that already. How much more are we going to heat this river up? We're going to boil it. That's what we're going to do. We won't have no water. So I hope you understand and don't put what you want to put in that river. And that's what all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We're going to move on to another phone number participant. And so it's the phone ending 0543. So for phone number 0543, you can press *6 to unmute yourself, state and spell your name for us, and provide your comment.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Hadapat Espirito. That's Cynthia, Cynthia, Hadapat, Howtopat, Espirito, Espirito. Good evening. I'd like to thank you for giving an opportunity to speak our concerns. I come from here along the Columbia River. My father was Leslie Hadapat from Maryhill, Willow Whitestone Band. My mother was Louise Billy Lesayat from Rock Creek, the Kamitla Band. And these are the bands of the Yakima Indian Nation. You know, our people have gone through a lot. Our river has gone through a lot. Our food has gone through a lot. All our old people, they worried who's going to take care of the land and the river. And I don't know how much more our river can take. When the dams were built, our people were affected. Our river, our foods were affected on both sides. We not only had to move our homes and villages, but we had to move our people, the cemeteries that were near the river. We had to move our loved ones. We could not remove all of them. Some of them we could not find. They were buried by the river and the soil, sandy, their bodies shifted. I have a great-great-grandmother who was covered when these dams came, when John Day happened. We have people that are still, that we could not move in their bodies. The river covered them. How much more can our river take, our food can take? This electric line, yeah, I hear San Francisco, but that's a big difference, the San Francisco Bay and the Columbia River. And so I'm concerned, and I don't want to repeat. I've heard a lot of good words this evening, and I don't want to repeat, but I just want to thank you for giving our people this opportunity and concern of not only my native people, but of all people that live on both sides of the river. And we live here. This is one of the 10 wonders of the world. And I'm concerned for all our people and all our foods. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We're going to move to another phone number. So for the phone number ending 1852, if you could press *6 to unmute and then state and spell your name for us and go ahead and provide your comment. So phone number 1852, looks like you've unmuted. Go ahead and if you state your name and provide your comment, please. Oh, it looks like we've, 1852, you're still on. We can't hear you though. I'm going to go ahead and move on. We've got one more hand up. So our hand up here is Thomas Gordon. I think you were on earlier, but if you do have a second participant, we have time.
Yeah, this is Diana Gordon, and
okay. Go ahead.
I commented yesterday, and I thought if there were time, I'd add one today. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, Diana Gordon, DianaGordon. This is just a couple of concerns that I didn't have time to mention yesterday. One of them is the electromagnetic field that the cable will emit. The work done on the effects of such cables did not study the same kind of fish that live in the Columbia. There's very little known about lampreys, for example, and we cannot be sure they don't use naturally occurring electromagnetic fields for navigation that could be interfered with by the EMF coming from the pipe. Another concern is the impact this pipe will have on the Palestrina emergent wetland near Stevenson. Excavating and backfilling it will likely kill the vegetation. I expect they plan to replant the emergence in the affected area. And also, I wonder if any machinery they may use to do the work in the wetland will have an effect on it as well. Wetlands are all about water filtration and quality, which are important for all of us. We should also consider the earthquake risk. I hope the EIS explains the effects earthquakes of different magnitudes would have. They have been warning us for years about the big one, but we also have smaller ones. In addition to damage caused by the quake itself, they can trigger destructive landslides. In the event of a pipeline break with a landslide on top of it, repair to the line would be pretty difficult. Of course, many questions remain. How can we be sure construction will not affect navigation in the channel? How can we be sure the line will only be used for renewable energy? And especially, how can we be sure this power will go to Oregonians and not to data centers? This pipe will conduct about 1,100 megawatts of electricity. This is considered to be a moderate amount. The pipe itself will only last 40 to 50 years and then need to be removed. I expect the EIS will have a plan to do this as well as the cost guarantees for the work. But in the end of the day, this project is not water dependent. It doesn't need the Columbia River for water. It just needs the conduit. However, the gorge itself is the conduit and is used by highways and railroads. I fear that if this project goes forward, others will be requested, and this already compromised river will be riddled with such projects. I'm pretty sure this wasn't in the original treaty agreements. The time to figure out a real solution to this very real and ongoing problem of clean energy west of the Cascades is now. We need to consult with each other and figure out and commit to a solution to this as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. So we're going to go back to the phone number ending 1852. It looks like you've gotten logged back in. We're going to try you again. So if you could press *6 to unmute and state and spell your name for us, and we'll take your comment.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Great. My name is Carlin Yallop, Karlen, last name Yallop, Yallup. I am a Wasco Yakima citizen of the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs. Just from hearing the call, I think you could see there's a lot of mistrust from the people, from facts and rationality of what's existing today. But I am very hoping and I envision a future where our energy systems empower salmon and all life forms rather than placing them at further risk. During the salmon feast this past winter, I was asked by multiple people to stand up and explain this project. I don't think I've ever seen that happen in our homes before. You know, with true partnership, real partnership with the tribes, there can be a future where we can honestly say we built a resilient energy system, one that protects and empowers our home and our relatives rather than sacrifice. But from what I have seen in history, there's, you know, very little to no trust existing at all. From a tribal perspective, salmon are not just a population, Every single salmon matters. Our people recognize them as individuals and give thanks for each one we take out. So even if one salmon is affected by EMFs or these impacts, it's one too many. We're at a time when funding is limited and recovery efforts are not even producing the outcomes as planned. That reality makes decisions even more critical right now at this point in time. We must not repeat actions that continue to result in, salmon mortalities, loss, and, specifically in closing, I will say specific comments for alternatives would be to look at alternatives out of the river and alternatives that utilize existing utility infrastructure. And all these alternatives must be given real and serious considerations. With fear pushing forward, quote unquote, for as much as is needed is not that much realistic. And as all the tribal members have specified before me, this deserves the most thorough and comprehensive environmental review that is possible. With that, thank you for hearing my testimony with a project that poses this much risk to our home and way of life from so many unknowns requires as much effort and, working together as possible. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. So we're a little bit past 8 p.m., but we still have some speakers that would like to speak. So we're going to stay on and we will take your comments. I want to go back to Elena H. It's showing. I think you may have gotten cut off earlier. So I want to go back to you. And so your microphone's available if you want to unmute with the mic button and go ahead and provide us your comments. So we're looking for Elena. I'm not hearing from Elena. If you want to go ahead to the mic button and unmute, we'll take your comment. Well, I'm not hearing anything, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. I have a name entered just as Tyler. So Tyler, if you could go to the mic button, just unmute, have you state and spell your first and last name for us, and then provide your comment.
Okay. My name is Tyler Takala. I'm an enrolled member of the TYLER I am an enrolled member of the Yakama Nation. I am a youth, and I am 14 years old. My ancestors, grandparents have lived, fished along the Columbia River for many years. My family has relied on this river for many generations. I am here to speak for the river and the fish of our treaty lands. I am here to speak for my future youth. I want to continue speaking on behalf of our Columbia River and Chihuahua for our future. Decisions today will do harm on my very existence, and that's why I'm here today. The Columbia River has already been impacted by dams, warming waters, low flows, pollution, and invasive species. Adding more. Adding cumulative impacts makes recovery harder. The project would undermine decades of fish restoration work. Columbia River dam floods village sites and force the relocation of cemeteries, replacing our ancestors. Ancestors continue to perpetrate under federal and state laws, disturbing the riverbed risk uncovering cultural resources and ancestral remains. This project poses serious cultural and spiritual impacts, not just environmental. Existing transmission corridor exists as alternatives. There are other ways to transmit power without placing another cable in a river. I request a full environmental review of the project and the Army Corps to consider alternatives that avoid the river. I fished this river for many years with my uncles, grandpas, my dad, my brothers, and my cousins. I don't want to see any impacts in the coming future to the river that I've been fishing on for many years. I would like to keep fishing here these upcoming years without any impacts impacting the wildlife, fish, other species, in our way of life. And thank you for taking my comment.
Thank you for your comment. I have a participant I'd like to move to, Ethel Marquez. So you'll be our next speaker. If you could go to the mic button and unmute yourself, state and spell your name for us and provide your comment.
My name is Ethel Marquez, ETHEL MARQUEZ. I'm a member of the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, and I am against this proposed electric line down the Columbia River. The Columbia River is life for many folks on our river, and I am just wanted to share that I am against this as a native that has grown up on this river. It'll impact so many things, our way of life, the way of the fish's lives, and our river has been hurt so much already, and I am totally against this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I'm seeing a phone number which I think has raised their hand before, but I'd like to call on you to speak. So it's phone number ending 2360. If you press *6 to unmute your phone, you can provide your comment.
Good evening. Inish Manisha Wanasnai, Shiapo Elaine Harvey. I've been trying to unmute on my laptop at least 3 or 4 times since you called my name. But anyways, I do have some comments in regard to this project. I come from the Comiskla Band and the Willow White Spoon Band of the Columbia River. Our people still live here. We didn't relocate to any reservation. My family fishes on this Columbia River. I have relatives who fish on the Columbia River year-round. They live on the river, and they depend on the Columbia River and all the resources, as well as all of the tribal people you heard on this call. We have grave concern for the impacts that this line can have on our inchiwana, on our salmon, our sturgeon, the lamprey, and all the aquatic species in the river. I am in opposition of this Cascade transmission line, and this is the first of its kind that you guys are proposing to put in our river. And it is inconsistent with the 1855 treaty reserve rights that we have reserve rights in the Columbia River that our ancestors reserved for us to ensure that we will have fishing, hunting, and gathering access in all usual and custom areas, which includes this entire Columbia River, the basin. And I question how much burden do the salmon and all the other native aquatic species of the Columbia River have to bear for green energy, The salmon have already been negatively impacted by the Columbia River hydro systems, which have never benefited any of their life histories. And there are many gillnet fisheries and scaffold fishing sites that will be impacted. And I do not want a high-powered transmission line which emits electromagnetic frequencies into the river, which I believe will have negative impacts to salmon, steelhead, and lamprey, especially the bottom-dwelling fish, the lamprey and sturgeon and suckers. And as a fish biologist, I'm very concerned. And I know that the electricity in the water negatively impacts fish depending on the voltage and the size of the fish. I'm especially concerned about the bottom-dwelling fish once again, because we want 100% assurance that our fish will not be impacted by the EMFs and the potential temperature impacts that this line can have, because we all know physics. We know that electricity does generate increase in temperature. The water temperature or the temperature that's created through the electricity is not going to just disappear miraculously. It has to dissipate. It's going to dissipate through the sediments in the water, which could furthermore impact our river and the water temperatures. And I do have concerns about all the cultural resources, the inundated village sites, the inundated archaeological sites and burial grounds that are in the river, because these are our people. These were our ancestors that are still in the river, and they were wrongfully inundated by the hydro systems. And this project is following the Washington and Oregon carbon neutral policies. And today there are hundreds of data centers coming to Washington and Oregon, which are driving the energy demand through the roof. And now we have to go green. But who are we really going green for, I ask? We're going green for data centers. We need that 100% guarantee that this project will not negatively impact any of the native fish and aquatic species of the Inchiwana. And our tribal resources and our fisheries should not bear the burden of green energy. Furthermore, in the Columbia River, our fish have already taken up enough of that burden. And it's a big concern for the Columbia River tribes, for our people. And I just want to say that much, and I will write an email to list other issues and concerns that I have and my communities have. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We have one participant that we couldn't connect with earlier. I'm showing Deborah. If you could go up to the mic button and unmute yourself, Deborah, we'll take your comment. It looks like we're not able to connect. We have participant Deborah. If you go to the mic button and click that to unmute, we'll take your comment, see if we can connect. Well, I didn't hear anything. I'm going to move on. I see Wilbur Slockish. If you go to the mic button, you can click that to unmute. If you could state and spell your name for us and then provide your comment. So Wilbur, we're ready for you. You'll have to click the mic button to unmute and then go ahead. Oh, looks like we lost him. I'm going to try Deborah one more time. So Deborah, you have your hand raised. If you'd like to speak, you can go ahead. Just click the mic button to unmute and we'll take your comment. Well, we weren't able to hear Deborah. We're a little bit past our time, so we're going to hang on for just a few more minutes, though. And again, if anyone wants to provide comments tonight, we appreciate everyone's participation. You can also submit your written comments to our email. But we'll hang on for just a couple more minutes to see if anyone else would like to provide comments. So I have a phone number. I think we'll try again. Maybe we couldn't connect last time. So it's phone number ending 1852. So phone number 1852. If you press *6, you should be able to unmute and provide your comment.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. If you could give us your first and last name and then go
Great.
ahead.
I already testified, but I hear Wilbur was on, who is an elder. If he jumps back on, can you give him a little more detailed instructions? He might need it, like, for example, like press *6. So just giving you a heads up. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and I think, again, we may have had a disconnect earlier, but go ahead and provide your comment. We have time.
I already provided comment. Thanks, though.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll see. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect you then. So we don't have any other hands up at the moment. We're about 8:20. We're a little past our time tonight. Again, we'll give it a couple more minutes here. If anyone does want to participate, we'll hang on for us a little while longer to take your comments. So I want to go back to Wilbur Slockish. So I see that you're still in the participant list here. So Wilbur, we'll like to take your comment. You had raised your hand earlier. If you go to the microphone button and just click that, that'll unmute you. And then we can take your comment. So we're calling for Wilbur to speak. Again, you'll have to unmute on your end. So if you go to the mic button, just click that, and then you can give us a check to see if we can hear you. So I'm going to try phone number ending 8493. So phone number 8493. If you could press *6 to unmute, we'll take your comment.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yep, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
This is Deborah Whitefoot, spelled DebraWhitefoot. I am a citizen of the Yakama Nation and from the Wishkam and Titanapum bands. I agree with what the previous speakers have said regarding the sediment, the waves, the heating of the river. But what I do want to reiterate is that this will be the death of the salmon and the resources in the river. It will not only affect tribal people, but it will affect
the other users of the river and the economy of the Columbia River Gorge. Because if there is no more fish, sportsmen fishermen won't be here, commercial river fishers down the river won't get salmon. It's going to affect a lot of things, and it will definitely affect the economy of the Columbia River Gorge, which is mix of tourism and fishing. A lot of people come here for that. It affected the native population when the Dalles Dam and the Bonneville Dam came and affected our socioeconomic life. We had need for nothing before these dams came in, and it affected us dramatically. So with this one more thing added to the river, and if there is no more fish, it would also affect the economy of each and every town that depends on the tourism and the people that come here for the salmon to fish. And people will also be afraid to even use the water recreationally for skiing, for windsurfing, all of those things. And as now the economy depends on those things, so it will negatively affect our tribal people, but it will also affect the other users of the river, who will all be burdened with this cost for a small geographic area and one business to receive the benefits. So I am against this proposal and for this project, and I would like the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to deny this permit. Thank you. That is my comment.
Thank you, Deborah. I think you may be logged in twice. Is your hand raised under the name
couldn't
Deborah?
because I couldn't, the mic would not let me unmute on my computer, so I dialed in.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm glad that you called in. Thank you for your comments. So thank you for everyone's participation tonight and for attending this meeting. So this concludes the public scoping meeting on the Cascade Renewable Transmission Project. Again, we appreciate your participation, and you can always provide us written comments just via our email, and you can also access our website. Thank you again for everyone's participation tonight.